Hi there, Dave Jackson and the School of Podcasting listeners. My name is Civilla Morgan, founder and host of the Childless Not by Choice podcast. My website address is www.childlessnotbychoice.net. That's childlessnotbychoice.net. Well, this year I am celebrating 6 years of podcasting for and about the Childless Not by Choice demographic community. But if you think that's niched, it's actually even more niched than that. I speak to the woman and man who never had children, who will never have children. I know that when most people think about issues around childlessness, they think about infertility and IVF treatments. Most people may not think about that niche of society that never has the successful IVF treatment, that does not have the money to have the IVF treatments, that never has the child. And I know some of you may be thinking, well, why not just adopt? Different question and topic for a different day. At any rate, the reason for the above explanation is this. I do not believe that I need to be a celebrity to achieve podcasting success. And indeed, I am not a celebrity, but I feel I am successful because I get to hear from people around the world about how the podcast has helped them, how they have gone back through the catalog and listened to every episode. They have literally said they were so happy to hear that a podcast like this exists. I started this whole thing from scratch. I do not have 1 million downloads or even thousands of downloads per month. But I can say that on average, the downloads I used to get in a month when I first started, I now get in a 24-hour period. I think that means, according to the download numbers from Rob Walsh, as he reviews the numbers on every episode of Libsyn's The Feed podcast, I'm about average, and I'll take that. My success is hearing from people who are depressed over their childlessness, made to feel unwelcomed by their family, friends, and society for not producing, being made to feel like second-class citizens. And unfortunately, in some parts of the world, especially as one ages, if they do not have children, they face a bleak future. Knowing that my voice, as they call it, the quote-unquote soothing voice, adds hope, I couldn't ask for anything more. I will continue to speak into my community about how to live a relevant, joyful, and fulfilled childless not by choice life. And thank you, Dave, for asking what turned out to, at least for me, be a pretty deep question. Have a great one, everyone. Well, hello, everyone. Hello, guys and dolls. Welcome to episode 142 and 7 years of the Childless Not by Choice podcast. Yes, that's right. July is my Podcastiversary month, and so it is 7 years that I have been podcasting, and I am still loving every minute of it. Yes, I always talk about the fact that when something crazy happens, I just want to walk away, just throw in the towel and walk away, but I'm still here. And that's what really counts, right? And fortunately, I have less and less of those events happening now. So excited about the fact that I still get to get behind this microphone and there are people actually listening. I can tell by the downloads that people are listening, the word is getting out, and I want to talk more about that in just a minute, but I am just so excited to be here and so humbled that you are actually tuning in. Thank you so very much. Yes, that clip you heard just a minute ago, that was me. I was responding to the question of the month on the School of Podcasting podcast. That's Dave Jackson's podcast, one of his several podcasts. This one is for podcasters mainly. It's called the School of Podcasting. And so if you want to get into podcasting and you want to know the right way to do it from the very beginning, tune into School of Podcasting, and that's my free plug for Dave. Not that he needs a free plug from me. Actually, I interviewed him some time ago, so I'm going to put the link to that episode in our show notes because Dave is also childless not by choice. Along with being an award-winning podcaster, he's been in the podcasting space since day one. He's got millions of listeners, all the good stuff. But I was responding, he has a question of the month every month for this particular podcast, School of Podcasting podcast. And so I was responding to that particular question of the month. And I just wanted to plug it in here just as a reminder that I'm doing this. I'm on a mission, and I've been on a mission for 7 years, and it sounds like such a really long time, and it's just amazing. I'm still amazed. I pinch myself every once in a while to make sure I'm really still doing this thing and I'm really still loving it. So yes, thank you for tuning in. I'm not really going to be before you very long. I'm going to say what I've got to say, and then I'm going to bow out because you guys know me. One thing I've learned about podcasting is say what you have to say. Don't try to add stuff and then, you just ruin the whole episode because you want to find things to say. I'm going to say what I have to say. I'm going to encourage you because that's what I do. So I'm not going to leave without encouraging you, but I'm not going to take up too much of your time either. So, about the podcast. Hearts are healing, minds are being refreshed, new people are finding the show, and childless not by choice people are boldly exploring new ways to live the childless not by choice life. For example, our most recent episode before this one, episode 141, I spoke with triathlete Rob Hutchings for our Father's Day episode. It was a June episode. We talked about his journey to adoption and how that journey ended without a successful adoption, but how he and his wife have decided to live their best, most relevant lives, hiking, swimming, triathleting, and traveling, Oh, by the way, I will be interviewing Rob's wife for a future episode, so be on the lookout for that. I'm literally currently reading her book. That's part of my research for our conversation in the not too distant future. Episode 140, the episode before that, Hiding in Plain Sight. One of my longtime listeners posted in our Childless Not by Choice with Civilla Morgan Facebook group that this episode spoke to her, and I really loved hearing that. And I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but I'll tell you now before I forget because it's not in my notes, but I just realized that another listener, she's also in the Childless Not by Choice with Civilla Morgan Facebook group, and she told me on TikTok that she really liked the last episode. So episode 140, Hiding in Plain Sight, seems to be resonating. And I'm sure if it resonated with those two ladies, it resonated with many more of you. And may I say, I don't mind getting feedback and just hearing from you guys. If you ever just want to say, hey, Civilla, loved episode so-and-so, or hey, Civilla, can you do an episode on such and such? I'm here for it. I love feedback. I love to hear how you're feeling about the episode. So whether it's on TikTok or in our Childless Not by Choice with Civilla Morgan Facebook group, just let me know how you feel. Also, of course, at Joy and Relevance on Instagram, at Civilla1 on Twitter. I'm everywhere. As I always say, I am everywhere. This one longtime listener in the group, I think she's been there since almost the beginning of the group. So I love that there are actually longtime listeners. It's just wonderful. It means I must be doing something right. And it's absolutely humbling to know that. So anyway, I got some feedback on episode 140. And then episode 139, I talked about pre and perimenopause. I think somebody gave me feedback on that as well. Pretty much probably the same feedback that I gave myself, which was, wow, I learned a lot. So pre and perimenopause, episode 138. Episode 137, I spoke with Sherry Johnson about worth. Our worth as childless not by choice people. By the way, if you want to hear Sherry interview me, check out her podcast, Awakening Worth. And she interviews me on episode 57. I interviewed Sherry, episode 137, on my podcast, Childless Not by Choice. And then on her podcast, Awakening Worth, she interviews me on episode 57. I got some serious feedback on that episode as well. I really enjoyed speaking with Sherry. She's a great conversationalist and she had some great ways of looking at things. I really enjoyed speaking with Sherry and hope she's doing well over on her podcast, Awakening Worth. That's another great podcast to listen to, especially if you are childless not by choice. So going all the way back to January, the beginning of 2022, we actually had 2 episodes that month. Episode 136 is where I stopped by to say Happy New Year. And then episode 135, I spoke with the one and only Sarah Roberts, founder of The Empty Cradle. And that was a lovely episode and a wonderful way to start the year. If you have not listened to that episode, please go back and tune in. That was a great episode as well. So it's been a fabulous year so far. We are just about the middle of the year now. I think the actual middle of the year, I didn't even ever really think about this, but as I flip through my day timer and make background noises that I always ask people to please be sure not to do, I'm doing it. I'm making background noises with my day timer. Yes, I have an actual physical day timer. I know a lot of people have theirs on their phones. I'm not that person. I like to write my stuff down. I am a list person and a physical day timer does that for me. And I had written down what day in July it is, but now I don't see it. Anyway, whatever day in July it is, it's the literal middle of the year. So hopefully if you have goals that you're trying to meet, if you downloaded the goals list that I created that's on the childlessnotbychoice.net shop page, hope you're using that. Make sure, go back, revisit it. Make sure that you're up to par with your goals list because we are now practically halfway through the year, by the way. And I got some feedback about the goals list and I'm going to see how to do this. But I was advised by somebody who purchased it this year that I should turn it into, not PDF. What's the term that was used? It's a term where you can go in and make changes on the document. Because right now you print it or you can fill it in, but it's not, what's the term? Oh my goodness. Anyway, I am going to make that change because I think it's a great idea to just, if you don't want to print it, a lot of people don't want to print these days. They're trying to save paper, save the trees. I get it. I'm a green person. I'm a recycler. I totally get it. Don't know why I never thought about this, but I think going forward, I know going forward, I'm going to see with my web manager if we can turn it into a document that you can access, keep it online without printing it, and just make changes as you go and accordingly. I think that's a great idea. So the childlessnotbychoice.net website, go to the shop page, and then you can just click on the goals list. So I appreciate that feedback as well. It's been a fabulous year so far. There is so much more coming. I am not even sure if I will be taking my 2-month hiatus. I feel like I kind of need it. So I had thought initially that, you know what, I've got so much to do, so many episodes to get caught up with, but I may just go ahead and take the 2-month hiatus because just on a personal note, we're looking at moving. We're actually looking at homes, my dad and I. So I may just go ahead and take that 2-month hiatus, but I will let you know for sure as we approach that time, which is typically October and November. I will keep you posted, so stay tuned. And, I just want to say a great big thank you again. I know I said it in the beginning. I want to say a great big thank you to all of you who tune in every month, for those who are just finding the podcast and the platform, and for those who tell others about the podcast, because I really like that. When you forward an episode, you forward a post, or you just tell somebody else about the podcast, I love it. That means you're helping to get the word out, and that is truly appreciated. There are people around the world who need to hear this great news that we do exist, and we're not going to hide in plain sight anymore. But how do you do it? And that's what this podcast is about. How do you live that relevant, joyful, fulfilled life. That's what this podcast is all about. And so there are people who are not getting the information. I want more people to get it, more childless, not by choice people around the world to feel hope and to feel hopeful about their lives, although things did not turn out as they expected. And although maybe the society that they live in, they are just being berated and mistreated and looked down upon. There are so many things happening just when you think, you know what, this is pretty cool. We are alive in the 21st century. And you think that we have more knowledge and we're more civilized, and then stuff happens. And I just won't get into all of it, but I'm sure some of you can probably imagine what I'm talking about. And in this case, what I'm talking about right now is, yes, we're in the 21st century, but there are still people in certain areas of the world who, because they did not get to have children, they are still in the 21st century. It may not even be their fault. And I did an interview. No, it wasn't an interview. It was an episode that I did. I think it was the episode on unexplained infertility, idiopathic infertility, where there's just no explanation. You can't tell if it's the man or the woman's medical issue. You just can't tell. It's just not happening. And in a lot of these situations, these countries, a lot of people don't realize it could be the man, so he's divorcing one woman and marrying another. But it's not always the woman. But society for millennia has blamed the woman for everything. And so if she's not having the child, it's her fault. They blame her if she keeps having girls. It's not the woman who decides the sex of a baby. I mean, even those things, it's amazing to me. Just, the knowledge, the amount of knowledge that's out there. And there's still a certain level, and I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful, but there's still a level of ignorance, really. And so I really want to combat all of that with this podcast, and I hope that's what's happening, and just wanting to really it's not impossible to get the word out globally, that we can live joyful and relevant lives. I just want to remind you that the day and age that we're in now, yes, I just finished saying it's the 21st century, we're educated, we're civilized and all that stuff, but we've also just come through a pandemic, and a lot of people are just dealing with a lot of mental health issues, a lot of physical health issues, and it's still tough. A lot of us feel post-pandemic, and we probably are for the most part. But I heard something today where it said that even though we're somewhat post-pandemic now, the effects of mental health issues is going to last for quite some time. And I'm not trying to sound negative, but we can't pretend, and we shouldn't pretend all is well if it's not. And so if you are dealing with any mental health issues, if you're just struggling and you just can't figure out why you can't push through and everybody else has, no, everyone else has not. And you're not the only one, quote unquote, still struggling. So if you feel like you are struggling, please do get the help you need. Be sure to reach out to a licensed therapist. And, they have some of them online and some you can go in person. A lot of companies offer that as a benefit to be able to go to see a therapist. And so, take advantage of the benefits that your company offers. You don't have to tell anybody if you don't want to, but do what's best for you. I just want to remind you, those feelings, those negative feelings, they come and go. They don't hang around forever. Recognize them. Recognize that they're there, but don't entertain them. Don't let them hang around for too long. Change your situation as far as if you're sitting on your couch and the negativity starts to come around, get up from the couch. Get up from the couch and go into a different room and do something else, or go outside and do something different, and just, manage your mind and your heart. Just do what you have to do to manage those things, and don't let life manage you. You manage life. And, well, just a couple more things before I let you go. As I mentioned earlier, I am on TikTok. I was just reading an article about TikTok, and you probably have as well, but I'm going to try to stick around for now and see what happens, and I'm not going to just jump off. Maybe I should, I don't know, but right now I'm really enjoying it. To me, TikTok is, I'm creating content. I fought getting onto TikTok for such a long time, but I finally joined the platform. I'm slowly building content, and I already have a small following. I think I have 169 followers already. And I will tell you that I get so many jokes from the platform. It's like a nightcap for me. It's literally a nightcap. I tune into TikTok a lot of times as I'm getting ready for bed. There are just so many jokes, so many great wholesome jokes. There's a lot of craziness on there. I'm not gonna lie, but the algorithm tries to figure out what it is that you like so that you don't get crazy. You just, the crazy stuff, you get what you like. So the algorithm tends to know that one of the things I like to listen to is the jokes and the skits, the things that just make you laugh and make you watch them over and over and over again, because on there, the skits and everything, the posts, they last anywhere from, I think, 15 seconds. And the more you're on there, the more content you create, you can get longer time. I think the minimum is about 15 seconds. So that's what I like about the platform. Let's see what happens as far as the article I'm talking about. But for now, I am on TikTok. If you're on there, say hello. One of my followers, one of the listeners, I should say, I noticed she was on TikTok because I know she's in the group. And so I sent a wave to her to say hello. And that's when she told me she enjoyed the last episode, which was Hiding in Plain Sight episode. Also, one of the ways I really feel that getting the word out to every part of the world is using a podcast app that acts like a phone. Acting like a phone meaning that you as a listener, you have the option to tune into the podcast by dialing in. And it's the only app I'm aware of that does this. And it's an app called Bullhorn, Bullhorn. So if you live in a part of the world, or you know someone who lives where data is difficult to obtain or just plain expensive, try Bullhorn. And no, they're not sponsoring my podcast, but I love that their product can work for those who have data issues, who have low data. And you're in a part of the world where that's an issue. Try Bullhorn to tune in to the podcast. Well, once again, I want to say thank you for listening to the Childless Not by Choice podcast. I hope you are subscribed, or as Apple wants us to call it now, following, because I guess people thought that subscribing meant you had to pay, which you don't have to pay. I mean, there are a handful of podcasts out there that you have to pay to listen, but this is not one of those. Of course, if you ever want to make a contribution or a donation to the platform, you can do so by going to PayPal and searching for Books by Civilla Morgan at gmail.com. So that's one of the ways that you can make a contribution. Their contributions are always welcome, because I just basically take that money and put it towards my monthly bills that come with being a podcaster, such as paying the podcast host, paying the podcast producer, paying my website manager, and I feel like I'm missing something, but yeah, it's 3 or 4 things that I have to do every month without fail. And so the money that comes into the podcast goes towards those things. So thanks to my patrons. If you want to be a patron where you have a certain amount of money deducted on a monthly basis from your credit card, you can do that too. You can go to the Patreon and do that as well. It's appreciated. As I said, I hope that you are following. I hope that you're subscribed, and you can subscribe on the Apple app, but there are tons of other podcast apps out there. They're called podcatcher apps, and I myself am subscribed to multiple podcatcher apps, such as Stitcher, which is where I listen to a lot of my podcasts. There's also Gaana, Gaana, which is Gaana, which is an Indian app. It's out of India. There's Overcast, which is an iOS podcatcher, Himalaya, Bullhorn, which I just mentioned, Google Play, Podbean, Spotify, Pandora, All of those are either podcatcher apps or like Spotify and Pandora, they are music apps, but they also encompass podcasts. So you can find the Childless Not by Choice podcast on any of those podcatcher apps or those music platforms. I'm probably missing one of them, but whatever your preference, I'm there. If you ever have questions about subscribing, episode suggestions, anything, message me. I'm happy to help. If you ever want to talk, there is a link on the shop page of the childlessnotbychoice.net website where you can click that link and sign up for a time for us to chat. There is a fee for that. I am not a licensed therapist, but I've been on this journey for a number of years, and so I want to lend an ear to talk. I will not be prescribing anything because I'm not a licensed therapist, but I am here to talk if you ever want to just chat about anything and maybe get some encouragement and maybe different ways of doing things that may lighten up, your mind and your thought process a little bit. I'm here for that. And again, you can find the link to getting signed up to chat with me at childlessnotbychoice.net and go to the shop page. Thanks again, everybody. Happy Podcastiversary to us, and keep on listening. Until next time, bye.